Hey everybody, BT here. It is a beautiful June morning. And I got to thinking. I had said at one point that we were going to go back to Newburgh. And you know what? We never went back to Newburgh. So I'm thinking, considering we're coming up on the anniversary of the Great Newburgh Flood, it's time to go back to Newburgh. So, let's go hit it. So anyway, we're coming up on Newburgh. Oh shoot. I'm out of gas. There we go. Got the reserve. Like I said before, I love the little town of Newburgh. It reminds me of home. I miss home. I love Newburgh. Newburgh's actually bigger than home, but really hope there's nobody down there. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about the Great Newburgh Flood. So back here behind me, this is Little Piney River. This is a beautiful little park that's run by the city of Newburgh. Now, on the morning of June 8th, 1945, this place would have been underwater. You see, it had rained for several days. And Little Piney was just about to come out of its banks. There's a little stream that runs through the middle of Newburgh that was also about to come out of its banks. And have you ever heard the term flash flood? I reckon you probably have. Here's the deal. Newburgh sits in a holler. Now, you may not be familiar with the term holler, but considering there's only about 165 people that's on this channel right now, I'm betting you probably are. But if you're not, a holler is kind of like a valley. You know, when you live in big hills, down at the bottom of the hills, you call a holler. Anyway, when you live in hills like this, and you have several days of rain, flash flood becomes a real possibility. And some people don't really understand how flash floods happen. They find it hard to understand how water can rise so quick to catch people off guard. But here's the deal. You got all these big hills. It rains. It's rained for several days. The ground's super saturated. The water is not soaking into the ground anymore. So when it rains, it just comes straight down the hills and the bottoms, where there's usually a stream that feeds into another stream, so on and so forth. And heck, you can get hit with a flash flood. It's not even been raining in your area. Well, that's how flash floods happen. Water rises several feet real fast. Sometimes just a matter of minutes. Flash flood, or flood in general, is we're certainly concerned about the morning of June 8th. But as I understand it, it wasn't raining. It was the first day without rain for several days. So when folks looked north of town, when folks looked north of town, they saw a storm cloud coming up. They were reasonably concerned. Turns out their concerns were well founded. Up ahead, here's the Houston house. We've talked about the Houston house before. And here's beautiful little Newburgh. Now, if you'll remember, off over yonder, that was where the rail yard was, roundhouse and all that stuff. Remember, Newburgh was selected for the roundhouse. I probably shouldn't be parked here, but I'm going to anyway. Newburgh was selected for the roundhouse because of its proximity to Little Piney River, because they needed good, clean water for their boilers and such. Well, the only problem is, like we said before, flash floods. Now, as I understand it, and I could be incorrect on this, but as I understand it, that gray building directly in front of me used to be a bank. Now it's a bar. If it's even open, I'm not sure. I haven't been down here in a while. But the little river that runs through the middle of Newburgh, or the little stream that runs through the middle of Newburgh, actually goes directly underneath that building, which I still think is just needs crap. When I say underneath it, I do mean absolutely underneath it. It goes right underneath that little building. Isn't that neat? It's just one of the things I love about Newburgh right there. So on June 8th, when people started noticing the cloud burst ahead and distinct possibility of more rain, which means a pretty good possibility of a flood, they were justifiably concerned.
There was a lady named Josephine Corson, her daughter Darlene. They were with her. They were watching over her niece, and her niece is Ruth and Joanne Williams. And she saw the clouds and called the kids over and took them over to the Baker house. Miss Lula Baker was there with her daughter Bernadine.
Now, this was around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when the water hit. And when I say that's when the water hit, I mean that's when the water hit. They said it was a 7-foot high wall of water that hit the town. Knocked 30 houses completely off the foundations.
When the house was hit with the water, it pretty much broke the house in half and washed everybody out. Miss Corson, her daughter Darlene, her niece Joanne, Miss Baker, and her daughter Bernadine were all lost in the flood. Ruth was the only one that survived. Ruth was with Joanne. She said that she had a hold of her hand and they got a hold of some brush or something, and something in the water come by, probably a tree or something, and caught a hold of Joanne and pulled her out.
The flood was said to have done $500,000 worth of damage in 1945. To say that it tore up the town is an understatement. It overturned boxcars. It overturned engines. It pretty much destroyed the roundhouse. It smoked the town pretty hard. And it's still the flood. There's been some big floods since, but it is still the flood. Now, of course, newspapers recorded it all over. It was kind of a big deal at the time. Fort Leonard Wood is just, I don't know, 15 miles or so that way, straight down the railroad tracks. They had some German POWs, mind you, this is 1945. They had some German POWs at Fort Leonard Wood that heard about it, and they actually requested to be brought up here to help clean up. Now, with that being said, there's a story I was told, and I don't know how true the story is. I do know one element of it that I was told is inaccurate. I like to think that with every good story, there's a little bit of truth in it. So, here's the story. Nowadays, we have TV and internet and international travel and everything else, so everybody knows everybody and everybody understands people are people. 1945, that wasn't the case. World War II, there was a lot of propaganda out there, and people believed it because they didn't know any German people. They didn't know anybody from over there, you know. They didn't know. And of course, we were at war, so the story goes that when the German POWs got here, they were treated pretty poorly. They believed that one of the bodies of the children was hung up underneath some stuff. And nobody wanted to go in there because it was deep water, fast water. Water was still up. Deep water, fast water, there was stuff going on. And nobody wanted to go, so they sent these couple of these POWs down here to get her. And sure enough, she was there. The story relayed to me didn't say who, just that it was a little girl. And when they pulled her out, they were crying. And through all this stuff, the local folks had been pretty nasty because they didn't see the Germans as human. They were enemies, and that was it. And upon seeing them come out, crying, cradling this little body, they began to look at them different and treat them different. And their treatment improved quite a bit before they were done with the cleanup. Is the story true? I don't know. I'd like to think it is. Sometimes we need to remind them we're all people, right? Especially nowadays. Everybody's so cranky and hateful and nasty towards each other now because we don't agree with everybody's political ideas or religious leanings or anything else. Yeah, it's kind of sad. We're all people. We ought to be able to get along a little bit, but you know, the way of the world, I guess. Sad, but it appears to be the way things are. But I'm not going to try to get too depressed. I'm going to, or too depressing. I want to roll through town. We're going to take a look at it again. And then I've got to go to Doolittle and get gas before I run out because I'm on reserve now. There's not a gas station in Newburgh, and I can put it on super secret reserve, but I really don't want to have to do that. So that works well. I wish, buddy. I can't pop a wheelie. Last time I was here, I got here later in the morning to do any kind of recording, and people were awake and moving around, and I got a lot of attention. I was here, that clock ain't right, so I was here pretty early this morning. I avoided most of the funny stares because, you know, people don't know me here. They look at me like, who is this dude riding around on a motorcycle with cameras like he's somebody special? I'm not somebody special. I'm a dumb redneck that thinks this stuff is neat. So yeah, that's just another little story about Newburgh. Newburgh's got a lot of neat little stories. I mean, Newburgh's got its own little mystery. Newburgh's first mayor disappeared and has never been found. 100 some odd years. Nobody knows what happened to him. Somebody knew, but that somebody is no longer around. So anyway, that's Newburgh. It's the flood of 45. Hopefully I can do it justice to the folks of Newburgh. 5 ladies that lost their lives in that flood. That was a bad deal. Yeah, you decide you want to do a little story on something like that, and you got to kind of figure out how you can do it respectfully and properly, and kind of honor the folks that survived it, and the honor the folks that didn't. I don't know, maybe some people don't feel like that's important, but I do. But anyhow, I reckon we'll sign off. Y'all take it easy. Catch you next time.